Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the Harvest Goddess Challenge submissions. Thank you all for being patient with my absence. It's been a long time since I've streamed, but I'm happy to be back. I feel very strong and very healthy. And let's take a look at this challenge. First, let's read what the challenge is all about, and let's start by talking about how to join challenges. You can join challenges by going to istebrak.com and clicking on the Reddit icon right here. And when you go here, which is right there, you will join and just read through it. Read through the front, anything pinned at the top. Please don't ignore this stuff. If I pin anything up here, it's because I'm announcing something. So the apprenticeship has been announced, and then this month's challenge has been announced. It's going to be done. A new challenge will be submitted today. Because I might forget what the challenge will be, because I might forget to announce it at the end of class, I will announce it in a second. But this month's challenge was the Harvest Goddess. So I'm going to read through it. I don't know how much I should read of this. Don't want to sit here for too long. Using the limited palette attached, which is this palette right here. Please complete a design. Please complete and design, a Harvest Bounty Goddess. Your character design must have a slightly rendered background but no detail. This is not an illustration but a standing character design. You must only use the colors provided in the palette attached to the character. You may use one or two extra colors for magical elements such as glows or sprites, etc. You may not use any colors outside of the palette in any way on the character herself. This challenge is meant to provide areas of restriction to help coax you out of your comfort zone or grayscale dependence. You may slightly desaturate or saturate colors provided as needed, as well as shade them respective to their midtone, which is the color provided in the palette. So these are the midtones, and you can go up and down from those. What body type represents the goddess of the harvest? Which attitude or personality will you channel through her expression, gesture, costume, and body type? Is the goddess of the harvest carrying a weapon? If she does, why does she need one? What culture does this seasonal harvest belong to, and how will that change how they view their goddess? Is it a war-based culture or a druidic culture? Is this culture that of an early Stone Age people, such as hunter-gatherers, or is the goddess of an advanced ancient civilization? How does the culture incorporate their goddess in their daily lives? How is she formed in the world around them? Does she have a story or a star constellation above, or does she live in a distant mountain or valley in the land surrounding and forming this culture, like a celestial resident of a mountain or something like that? The colors chosen represent the geological landscape during the changing of the seasons from summer to autumn. This means that you must stay in the neutral earthly realm with your aesthetics, but feel free to add as much magic as you like. Is this goddess a magical being? Is she a dwarf, an elf, an ogre, or an elemental or supernatural cosmic heavenly goddess? Does she have an animal companion? I really was interested in seeing what you guys do with that last clause. Can the harvest mean more than culture or agricultural history? Can it describe the success of the hunt and the bounty of the table and more? What religion, pagan or Abrahamic, will you pull from these design cues? The design must have works shown, a mood board, or references, collage must be handed in. I've looked at most of them, so most of these have work. Some of these don't have work. I'm going to be looking at them anyway, but you can tell when something hasn't had enough blueprinting done because it looks really weak as a design. Along with gesture experimentation, any other references, elements needed for the design, including standing silhouettes to help build shape language and quantify negative versus positive space. I'm so sorry I'm reading so fast, I have to just get through it. You must show your work. All blueprints and references must be handed in. This challenge is due towards the end of September, blah, blah, blah. So, if you're interested in joining challenges like this, please join our Reddit and stay connected. Follow the Reddit. I don't know what you got to do that, but I think that's all it is. You just join it and you get updates on your phone if you download the Reddit app. The challenge for October is as follows, and I will be putting up the bulletin for it on this Reddit community, so if you want to join the Reddit, please go there. The challenge will be a sketched, cel-shaded character design lineup of classical Halloween characters with a twist. So you are not going to be rendering these characters. You will not be shading or anything like that. The only kind of shading that will be allowed is cel shading. And the fun part of this is that it's stylized. No anime though, but you may stylize cartoony, like panda, what is it, Kung Fu Panda style. You can have them animal characters. You can just go crazy with it. But line layer must be clean. And of course there has to be some shape variety. We'll be talking about that. The character lineup must have a variety of characters. It must be 5 characters altogether. 5 classical Halloween characters, but they don't have to be like a vampire, a witch, a werewolf, a mummy, and an invisible man like in Hotel Transylvania. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be really unique takes on these classical characters. So no rendering, line art, cell shaded, fun colors, have fun with it, bring in magical elements, dark or light, light environments, and yeah, that's gonna be it. A sketched character lineup. I will be uploading references very soon, but feel free to get started starting today after today's class. Okay, so no, it's not a furry. It's not furries. No, no, no. They can be characters. But I will be putting up the details for that. But that will be the new challenge for October. It'll be due by the end of October. The critique hour for that will be on Halloween the 31st at 5 p.m. Eastern time. If you party animals are going to be available in an evening time of Eastern during that day. Okay. All right, so let's get started. But some last minute announcements. Portrait Studio is going to be on sale by the end of October. So maybe starting in the last week of October into the first 2 weeks of November. It might be a month-long sale. It might be just 2 weeks. But Portrait Studio will be on sale at almost 55% off or 50% off. If anybody wants it, if anybody's looking for it, please wait for those days. There's no reason for you to pay almost double. Right now it's at $90. If you really need Portrait Studio to help you with rendering, to help you build scenes, it's an amazing referencing system. And it will be on sale. The update that is upcoming is almost finished, and it will be free. It's for anyone who currently owns Portrait Studio. Your update will automatically roll out to you. It might be slow. The server will be loading for all the users, and it's not like the best server in the world. So be patient when the update rolls out. Big thank you to Abu for finishing it up. But he's just tidying it up right now, last minute stuff. Abu's birthday is on the 6th of October, so if you guys want to wish him a happy birthday that day, I'll make a little post about it. But his birthday is that day. Maybe you guys want to give him a follow on Instagram and all that, but I'll be posting something about that. If you're interested in this sale, it'll be live on Selfie as well as my store, istebrak.com. And all my brushes will also be on sale. My brushes also always go on sale. And that's it. If you want to join as a patron and help support my channel, there's different levels of patronage. And one, the last one is the one that comes with the apprenticeship on through the Discord, where you get assignments and special events and stuff like that. Streams, private streams, or private live recordings or offline recordings of work critiqued. You get brushes, you get exclusive content, all my personal work, all of that. If you guys want to support but have something given back to you as well as a reward, feel free to join me on Patreon. Let's get started on today's Harvest Goddess Challenge critique. Okay, I'm going to start with this one because this one is fucking amazing. Sorry for swearing. I love this one very much, but I did ask for a slightly rendered background. This is not slightly, this is wholly rendered. And if you've ever seen like Indian or Hindu, I'm sorry, I'm really ignorant. I don't know if it's, Hindi is the language, Hindu is the religion, right? Yeah. If you've ever seen those, they really do use a lot of light language in their concepts to illustrate the divinity of whoever it is they're discussing in the painting or whatever it is. If it's like a divine, like a representation of one of the Hindu gods, I'm not sure how. Like, I don't know. I know that there's illuminated manuscripts. I'm not sure if there's a holy book. I'm sorry for my ignorance again. But usually I see these with a lot of light behind them. Tons and tons of light language just to show the divine nature. But you've really grounded her here, and she doesn't feel divine. So you're designing a goddess in this drawing, and it kind of feels like a final form for a character. Almost feels like a character in costume. I want her to feel divine, and you're really on the right track with this really, really angelic lighting behind her, and I just want to promote that. And the grass has really grounded her, so we're talking about either a moment where this divine God reveals herself, or a final form moment, but it is a divine final form moment, kind of the moment of reveal or something like that. And the fact that you've kind of added her to a really, really dark surrounding environment really, really limited her sense of power. So sublimity, like being sublime, being scary beautiful, is kind of what I would like to see in the way you guys represent these goddesses. So I'm just raising the light environment, really, really letting it shine behind her. And that is typically what we see in these designs when it comes to Hindu holy drawings for Hindu religion. All right, a little bit more God rays here and there, with different sizes behind her, not too small. Throw off the focal point. And then if she does have like grass growing into her, like yeah, I know what you've done with the grass here. That's okay. You can blend it in. Another thing that's really limited her, let me just save this. Lasso. Another thing that's limited her a great deal is the horizon line. I'm not sure why you've kept it so sharp, but again, it's really thrown off the focal point, and it's made her read as kind of less holy. Okay, so the character is really, really well done. I would say you need a bit more rendering done, like in certain areas, but this is one of the more completed pieces where I really have nothing else to add to the design. It's just phenomenal. So congratulations on this. This is a beautiful piece. And I'm just blending that back down. So just by doing this, I think we've kind of elevated her divinity a great deal. And then in the inverse of that, of course, whenever we have a silhouette, we have a whenever we have light behind a character, we have a silhouette. So I'm just going to be bringing in some kind of blue value to help darken against the yellow and create that sort of, I'm going to saturate just a bit more. Darken against the light. So we're still getting that environmental darkness, but we're not going to be contesting the light. So look at that silhouette, what that's done for that light behind her. Because these are wreaths of wheat, we wouldn't really want to darken those too much. And I wouldn't darken her face all that much, or the gold. Okay, and then I'm going to get Dodge Tool. And these weapons that she's holding both represent, you know, the tool and represent it as a weapon. And I really want to promote how sharp they are and capture some of the attention of the viewer with those. And then just throw a quick sheen across one of them. Might need to do that with soft brush. And I'm just promoting environment here. I'm just reinforcing texture when it comes to the metal. I'm going to be promoting some subsurface scattering and really, really elevate that subsurface scattering a little bit higher. Just again to promote that divinity. Don't want that to be too bright. And then I'm just going to go back to before I started darkening. And just show you kind of how she's fitting into her environment continuously. That horizon line is still messing with me. I would rather some kind of billowing fabric. I would rather the sleeves move in this direction. So let me see what I can do. My AC is on. I don't know if Abu's here, but I don't know if he can come and turn it off for me. Let me message him. It's making me sick, so I'm trying to. Let me just give Abu a quick message. Thank you, Abu. If he even gets the message. Abu! Alright, so throwing the sleeves off to the side like that will really help fill the space around it and kind of like empty out where the horizon line was. By the way, by the pace that you can see me work in, you're probably guessing that it's going to take me more than a day to finish all of these submissions because I really want to take my time. You guys took the time to create your pieces, and I just want to take my time to correct them for you. So select inverse. Thank you. Oh, I hear myself. Right, I'm in the wrong layer. Yep. Okay, so we're just filling the seam with these sleeves. Why do I do that? Okay. And that's just bringing in an environment. Again, I'm just bringing in an environment. I'm not really adding or taking away from the character design because it's just so well done. It's a beautiful, beautiful work. Congratulations. And this is really fun, like bringing in moving fabrics. She's wearing these big sleeves, and what I notice in like Chinese culture, when they have those really, really big sleeves, they really incorporate those into their dances. And I really want you to think about how this comes back in the culture that we're talking about. How do they, you know, if a god is wearing long sleeved or big sleeve dresses, and that must be like a holy type of outfit, you know, that must be like one of those really, really important outfits that a priest might wear or chosen girl might wear or something like that. So reinforcing that silhouette, the divinity, and then I'm just going to add some subsurface to the little pieces in between the wreath. And I'm going to try that wherever her cast shadow relieves is where the subsurface would start. Wouldn't really break through it. And what I'm going to do for that is get the palette off of this. And it's just dodge tool and sponge tool on saturate. So do you guys have any questions about, you know, what we're looking at right now? Yeah, the colors in the background are beautiful. I like that slightly stormy weather. I did not like it towards the bottom, though. I did not like it there because it was kind of taking away from the goddess herself. Okay. And then I'm just gonna cut like right across it for those cast shadows. Grabbing that. It's just that yummy subsurface scattering. Chill in there. And there's going to be just like a whole body of subsurface, just slightly, you know, one big motion. And it's in the shape of the cast shadow. So see how I'm edging it out? It's the shape of whatever cast shadow is nearby. So that's the cast shadow of the body on the wreath. And that would be your edge where the subsurface would stop. And I'm just smudging just because lasso is messy. Okay. There is an opportunity for glare. Some of you might think it's cheesy and not like glare too much, but I think it adds that little touch of atmosphere. I am going to give the crown a bit less flat of a sheen. I'm just going to give it something like that. And it's not so much about making the crown brighter as it just darkening the lower half of the crown, just so that the top gets to really shimmer. And same thing with her gold, like the necklace right here. And then we have missing cast shadows and core shadows. So we've got a core shadow missing down here under her knee. Just something like that might help. The piece along. And if we were to look at this as a silhouette. I really would love to see the triangular point just there. I think it adds more elegance and relief instead of having bulky sleeves. So try to give us that relief whenever you can. I think there's some of it in here. That I didn't lasso successfully. Okay, and then I'm going to apply some there. Okay, so for that lower half of the canvas, I'm still having some issues with it, so I'm just gonna try to do what I can for just making it feel a little bit more. I don't know if I want her floating in the sky to represent the harvest. It is necessary that she's not just completely in the sky, but I also don't want her to feel grounded. Maybe just a little bit of just like surface dew, or just kind of disruption on that green block that you've got just sitting there, contesting any green on her body. And then just seeing what I can do there. So it feels like the dewy morning on a wheat field. That's kind of what I'm going for. It's not complete, obviously. There's still a lot of issues there. Okay, as for what you did in this area of, it's just one big, really basic shape. You could have, and let me sketch it out, you could have done so much there. And I recommend you apply these corrections, because this is a beautiful portfolio piece. You could have given us some more like wind element here. You could have given some kind of billow or weightlessness to the hem, and then just another kind of atmospheric floating, like a suspension. Anything to break this piece apart. The dress could have been a little bit less open, because I think in Indian culture it's kind of tight around the bottom unless the girl is twirling, if my dance knowledge is correct. Right, so we see like a bit more of a closed shape, and then we can really exaggerate that, so we're closing the bottom into like a mermaid hem, and then we carry that big waist back, I mean that big hip, small waist back up into the design up here. And then we can take care of what's happening here, because it feels just a little bit, actually I'm going to just really exaggerate that bloom. Oops, let me just do that first. Alright, so we've opened up the seam there. And just a bit more of that. Now she's kind of pushed to the side. She's kind of like throwing her hips out a little. And I'm just duplicating that bloom, and I'm just going to make it pale. Again, it's really going to help make her feel more divine, as you can see. And then I'll merge that down, and then we can just correct whatever's happening towards the bottom, because that's just really difficult to take in right now, is this how bulky that lower half feels, and I think it'll help us kind of finish off the seam. So I'm sorry if I'm taking too long to get to all of these. Again, I haven't been back in a while, and there's no reason why we can't continue this into another day. Really, really like what I did here with this, so I'm going to just apply it. Really like that, and just that kind of asymmetrical billowing. That's how we kind of make her organic a little bit more, so we've just given her this asymmetrical movement. And that's like as asymmetrical as she gets, being all divine and perfect. Right, and we've opened the scene a little bit more, and now you can see there's tons of empty space up here and nothing down here. That's how big that piece was. It was just too big. And then this whole foot really doesn't need that big a cast shadow. And we can just end that off. Again, it was supposed to be a minimal background, you guys. It was supposed to be something really, really basic. I did not want to see a full-on wheat field. I did not want to see a sharp horizon line. This is about the goddess, and the elements around her will help reinforce the color and the atmosphere, but that's about it. Not an entire environmental design of the wheat field. It's just magnificent design, though. Beautiful work. And she has a name as well. I'm not looking through them too much, like detail-wise. I am sorry about that. And I'm just giving her that Hindu style kind of halo towards her feet. But if you don't like that, you can apply a little cast shadow. And that'll also just give us some kind of floating suspension just under her, if that's what you like. I think I'm going to go for half of both. And I'm going to correct that subsurface because it's kind of messy. Alright. I'm just choosing some slivers of the wheat in there. The cast shadow is different now because I took off a big chunk. Okay, and I think the crown would cast less of a shadow. I'm not really sure. I'm just guessing here. Okay. And then we have last minute universal stuff. So I'm going to choose a universal light source. Dim it. It's just going to be the background value, and that's what I use to enhance every cylinder in the scene. That's what's going to finish the painting. Every cylinder here is weak. You got weak cylinders. All right, so we took an X-ray of your art, and we found out you got weak bones. That's not good. All your cylinders are really weak. I love this symbolism as well. The blooming flower. The weapons, the wheat, the basket full of fruit. Beautiful job. It's a bit messy with the way I had to figure out the background real quick, but I'm sure you can do a much more sharp job with the texture you're representing and any like a mist that you want to represent. But I hope that has helped you flatten the image. And I'm just going to either extend the canvas down to help create some space under her, or and this is where you can bring in that kind of like moving, billowing kind of like surface. I mean, it can be clouds like they do in the actual Hindu culture, just clouds opening up. Or it could be something else, but I really recommend some kind of atmospheric signature surrounding her just there to help complete the piece. And I'm just going to crop a hair off the top. All right. Let us look at the before. Really flattened. The environment really isn't reading as divine. And the representation of that culture, how the culture sees her. I do like the grass dress, though. That is really cute. After a lot more divine, a lot more grand. And that's kind of what I like to see when we're talking about a goddess, you know. Beautiful, beautiful job. Thank you so much for submitting something. Let us just start from the top over here. So now that I've done that one, now that I've done pretty much the most completed or the most researched, I guess, or the most unique goddess representation, let's go back to these and compare. So now that you know we're talking about divinity, we're talking about exposing as much of the detail and the color as possible in the palette, but at the same time staying to the challenge and making sure that we're representing the colors, the culture, and representing the divinity at the same time. Keeping things interesting in the silhouette, negative space, movement and billowing, elemental influence in the environment around the character, and it's just all repeated themes that will enhance each piece as we move through them for the critique. If you guys have any questions, please make sure that you're writing at Istebrak for me to read the question, or else I will not be able to see it. So what are some of the questions? Do I look at older challenges as well? I tried to look at every single elemental that was handed in, and unless you handed it in late or you didn't hand it in on time, I will not look. I would not have looked at it. And unless you handed it in late, I looked at every single one. Now that you mentioned it, the weather did not match the fabric, like how the environment affects how the weather was lit, how the character was lit. Yeah, that really low hanging cloud, kind of a storm in the distance, but not just yet. The storm kind of cleared and allowed for the goddess to descend. The clothes were very, very low hanging, very heavy, very, very mortal. I want to read mortal when I look at it. And when I look at this piece here, I'm reading immortal, not immortal, immortal. There's something that you can do with this piece that could help it significantly, and that is darken the light environment. So yes, it's a goddess, but she seems to be also a lamp of sorts, and I think that that's what you're doing. I don't know if it's godlike glow or divinity in the background, but let's experiment a little bit by darkening the light environment. Ooh, mama, look at that. That is good. So before I do that, let me complete the lasso. Just so that it's a symmetrical glow. Alright, let's darken that. Very nice. I like it. Let's move on. I'm going to just preserve this lasso for me. How do we make her feel more like a goddess? So what's happening with her neckline is it feels very short and unbeautiful. I love, love, love the subsurface on her hair. Really, really well done. I'm going to raise this so that the neck is a little bit more open. When it comes to designing females, remember that the neckline is a big deal. The neckline decides the beauty, decides the elegance, decides the feminine read along the chin from the jaw, decides the weight and the delicacy of the weight category of that female. So she's like a lightweight, but at the same time very elegant still. And we're just using her holiness as a sign of her strength. The tilt in the neck was just not accurate. And then I'm going to just cast that shadow. And just keep moving down. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. We're trying to make her read as the highest, how do we say, like the ideal female beauty, the ideal female figure. And she reads as sort of like a chambermaid right now. And that's okay if she's the goddess of a simple people, if she's the goddess of like farmer culture, and rich people would in this culture would have a different interpretation of the goddess. They'd have a much more rich interpretation of her, or enriched interpretation. But to make her more appealing, I'm sure the artists, peasants, or anything who would worship this goddess or pray to her would have interpreted her as kind of a picture of them. And that's how they interpret her. Her as a single standing character for like a game or something like that, she would really need to go a little bit higher in divinity and a little bit higher in the ideal. I feel like I recognize the reference you used, but I'm not sure who I recognize in there. Good job. I'm just doing that here. She's got those many arms as well, which is really cool. I'm going to start enhancing the background. I'm not sure if that's a big orange she's holding or something, if I want to keep working with that. Or I'm not sure if I want to just interpret it as the lamp that I mentioned earlier, which is just blurring this eventually. So if you had layer access, of course, do a much better job than I do, but I think a dark light environment would have helped with the blandness. You had that white background and you had all these light elements and you weren't really throwing her into a silhouette, and the light was just this particular light behind her that read more as like a big orange or something, or like the sun itself, and we're kind of dimming the environment to represent the sun. Alright, and I'm just cleaning up the lasso. I want to host more challenges that are seasonal and festive, just to keep it all kind of together and fun. So the new challenge is going to be a bunch of sketching and line art. And yes, you will have to use lines, but because you use lines, you are expected to maintain volume, make a more animator-friendly shape language. Where you distribute detail is also a big deal. So be careful with your excitement in case you're interpreting it as a line art only kind of design. All right, so let's move on to how we could make her read as a bit more divine. We could, divinity requires symmetry. Write that back to me. So if you're ever designing a holy character or a famous knight who's been thrown up in some stained glass, or a famous monk, they always have a symmetry around them. There's always symmetry. So one thing you can do that can really help her is give her the symmetry of that hemline. And I recommend doing something a little bit more martyr type, like representations. I'm going to reinforce this cylinder here. I'm going to get rid of her legs. I'm sorry, they're so stubby now. And I'm going to give her muddy feet. So I'm going to select this whole mess that I made. Go backward, paste it. And now she's really stubby. And delete. So giving her muddy feet will be like this holy representation of hard work, the harvest, what we have to do in order to work the field. So I don't think I'll be able to render the muddy feet, but that's going to be just such a cool representation of what we're going for here, which is a harvest goddess that represents the common man. So no silly little shoes. And you can really have fun with the elegance of her feet. I'm just doing really basic feet. I am not the most successful foot artist. So you can see, you can see that I'm struggling. I'm trying to maintain my dignity as your teacher. But you can see what's happening here. A blind man can see I can't paint feet. I'm just painting them on the sides like that. I don't have a reference. Okay? God. Watch all my competitors just sitting down watching me stream right now, laughing their asses off. Alright. And then I'm going to just apply that there, and then just give her those muddy feet. Or, even more interesting, you can give her wine-stained feet. So that could be like a red as well. Like a dyed foot, or purple, if there's purple involved. Alright, so that's just to represent the activity in the harvest. I'm just going to stick with mud. Alright, these skillful feet. My God, I'm so good at what I do. And you can throw some twigs in. Okay. And then to I'm just completely going with this. I'm just going with this shit right now. Anyway, I'm going to enhance the brightness in the background. And these arms here, because they're directly in front of the light, I'm going to throw them into some not long-lasting silhouette, just like an episode of silhouette, I guess, just along the top of the arms. And I do that with a universal nearby dark value, which I can't really find. Maybe this one is good, but if I cool it down a little more toward purple, desaturate it a little bit, that should help. And just towards the top. Okay. And then we've got just some basic cylinders to look at. So we have select inverse. We have a universal value warmer for the top of the dress, just at the very tops of that hooping happening. And then I'm going to use just that dark red. Just trying to keep the palette intact here. And I'm going to borrow like a brown and use that to darken everything else. Get burn tool on highlights, and just give the sheen of that little apron a mute, just because it'll enhance the top. Oops. And I'll get dodge tool on highlights to enhance the top of the dress. Nope, no, just the gold. All the gold gets enhanced, and darkening the light environment has really helped with that. And I imagine if they had put up some kind of picture or homage to her in some sort of dining table or dining room or great hall in this old age kind of medieval maybe Norse culture, they would have used actual gold on these gold parts. And then I'm getting saturation and saturating the apron just around there. I do say so myself. I chose some very, very good colors. Normal. I love the turquoise. It was during the time when I was decorating my house, like fall theme stuff, and so I was having a lot of fun. And a little bit more of a coarse shadow right there. So we're enhancing divinity, incorporating environment to add the realism, and then we're just thinking about, you know, the ideal female. So filter, liquify. I'm going to pinch that waistline a little bit more, and just give us that, again, medieval or 16th, 15th century waistline. Or even 14th, 13th, 12th century. And some of the symmetry feels a little bit off. So a goddess picture, a picture of a goddess with long arms, would make it so that the culture adores long arms or long necks. So whatever the culture or religion is in the area, that's the ideal for their beauty. So I imagine, you know, they would say, oh, arms like the goddess, you know, something like that to compliment a woman or something like that. So make them a little bit thinner, not so chunky, and make them, not that she's starved, but at the same time still very long and elegant and ballerina-like. And you can go even further and darken the environment even further, which will just enhance the gold even more, which represents the riches. Not too much, because we don't really have, we want to establish, maintain the universal that we have. Okay, some other elements you could bring in could be more design, more billowing shapes, or more, like I would just bring in some kind of ribbon here. Just something to help, just as a design, as a concept, just for art. I would just bring in something like that. I'd bring in some, you know, those holy type of banners at the top sometimes. I'm using that color, or it could be a different color at the top. It really just depends on what you want to do. Yeah, I think red is the best value here. Okay, it can be a little bit smaller. It doesn't have to be a complete inverse of that. It could be a smaller little ribbon. Just so you're breaking up the silhouette, because a big part of this was studying the silhouette. And on the silhouette stage, I would have found all of this very boring. This could also be representation of bull horns, you know, farming and the beasts of burden are so important to farmers, so important to that culture. You know, it's like their tractors or their trucks. That's pretty much how I interpret. Okay, and so let's flatten the image and look at the before. Before, head was a little bit stunted and short, background was blindingly bright, and we weren't really picking up on the light behind her as the brightest component. Neck is a little bit more relieved now, but I do recommend enlarging the size of her head just a bit to give her that feminine size in her head. It does feel a little bit small. We have more symmetry, which is a bit nicer, and we've given the gold a chance to really brighten up the scene. So she's a goddess, but she's not, you know, that old. So we're enlarging the size of her head to make her feel a little bit more young. And then she's got these side feet. I can do better. I can do better than this. I really can. The gesture I recommend for the feet, so you'd have heel here, and so we have that little feminine, ankle, pinched ankle, and then we have, you know, that kind of Grecian foot thing that goes on sometimes. I should stop while I'm ahead. I can do better. I can do better than this. I never said I do tutorials for toes. I've never ever said that this was my strength. So all you haters, just back off, okay? All right. So basically one leg is like this, the other is like this. The toes are right there. And then one leg is straight and the other is like, Istebrak, stop. Okay. Let's move on. Any questions? What if the feet don't show under the dress? It's easier and more goddessy. Yeah, you can do that. Thank you for the critique. I'll work on the image later. When do we brighten versus when do we darken the background for divinity? So I've darkened it because there was only one light behind her. It was like a singular lamp or candle. So when you have a small light and you're trying to take a picture of a candle, you take it in a dark room so the candle looks really cool. But when we have a light that's the sun, we want to paint the entire environment, and so that's why it looked better to brighten this environment for this goddess, because we were talking about the sun, and darken the environment for this goddess because we were talking about a smaller light source. This was just like a singularity where this was the entire environment. All right, let's move on. For this goddess, I have a lot of trouble believing what's happening here. If you're not going to do anything with the light environment, just bring it back down to gray. I'm going to lighten it though. The reason why I have a hard time believing that she's a goddess of a strong people is because of her smile and the way she's standing. It really doesn't read as a goddess. It reads more like a creature design. So how do we make her feel more like a goddess? So if these people were hunter-gatherers, they were early peoples, they were primitive, their drawings would also be primitive. It's not that you have to draw her exactly as they would interpret her, but use that to help the audience feel like she's divine, like we're in the presence of someone divine. So if you were to look at primitive people, maybe they're not that primitive, maybe their art is more Aztec, something like that, where the people are primitive but the religion is highly advanced, which explains the really intricate work on the fabric. Other things that are happening in this scene include the lack of volume in the distance. So separating the background from the character, shrinking the character, and I just want to kind of help you see how you could have. So I'm kind of like doing a really, really weird way of applying depth of field. Or depth of view. Field of view. Same thing. So I'm kind of just trying to like bring some in. Sort of. Really, really clumsily. I don't think you can tell unless I shrink it as well. The before is shrunken as well. And I'm just going to use Liquify to help this along. So I think you failed in expressing her as divine, but as a character design, it's pretty cool. It can still be used in your portfolio. And this is how you can make it a little bit more appealing. So we put one leg in front of the other. I have the hardest time liking her face right now. I hate her face. I actually hate her face. I don't know why. It's too happy for someone. It's so soccer mom for someone who's someone who's got abs the size of a boob. I'm getting rid of her face. I really recommend you rework it. She does not read as scary. She does not read as someone who relies on her strength. She does not read, I like her hair, but it's so much of it that you've hidden a lot of the character design. You could have just thrown the braid to the side. You could have made the braid massive, and maybe it's a culture that has massive braids. Her wrist size is the size of my neck, and she's got this really, really super girly Instagram face. It doesn't work. I hated her face. Okay, so let's move on how we can make her face a little bit more appealing. So whose face would we use? Which actress? Who would we cast as this character? There's a lot of ways to do it. I don't know what this is here. Is that a cast shadow? I don't even know what it is. This weapon is super tiny. I'm going to get rid of these things. I recommend like a massive weapon just to show like how humongous she is. By the whatever of the goddess, whatever, like, you know, people, I imagine if I was a writer, you know, I would write it so people swear on her by her weapon. You know, people are afraid of it. That's the weapon of death, at the same time the weapon of bounty. So you know, you don't fuck with that, you swear on it. Like, that's how I would write around it. Like, I swear to God, I swear on the what is it called, the scythe of whatever this goddess's name is. How else do we make her feel more divine? Well, her head tilt, again, super Instagrammy. I don't like it. I'm going to make it so that it's more symmetrical. We need some symmetrical elements here. And, like, unless this is a modern culture, I don't see any reason why her hand should be on her waist. It's a pretty modern stance. It's a pretty social stance. I don't see it as something that we would give a god. I think when it comes to art of a native people or a primitive people, we would say, not that I'm saying natives or primitives, but it's just early peoples and their lack of development. I would say like really, really basic strength stance would do a lot for her character. I'm just going to flip it because it's just reading is off. It's still reading as a character design because and only because of the way, you know, we see this character right now, which is as a person, as a human. There's no divine element being used in her interpretation. But again, these are how you could kind of salvage what you have for the sake of a character design in your portfolio. Okay, so the face, I would say, would be better if it, so the yellow in her hair is just too yellow. We need a really bright environment to promote that feeling that, you know, this is bright enough for us to see that much yellow. I would look for a really like strong female character portrait and just use that. but that's as far as I can push this without designing for you, you know? So she's like, hey y'all, this is my costume. All right, so she's way too happy. The tan also doesn't feel as realistic. Feels like a fake tan. So if she is part of a really tanned but bright-haired people's, I would desaturate. You are allowed to desaturate the palette slightly. I would desaturate the skin tone. The more orange the skin, the less believable it reads as a tan. And when you desaturate, that's when it starts reading as realistic. Alright, so we threw the character into some volume before the legs were beside each other. And that made it feel like, you know, you had two legs beside each other. And then, but when you have one leg behind another leg, suddenly, if you haven't twisted your ankle, suddenly we have, you know, a real space that the character can exist in this big box they're standing on. Where here, they just stood on a plank. Right, so that's what I did with her legs. I created that space here. Okay. Flatten image. So rework the face. This is great. This really, I like the way you apply the divinity by what she's wearing, her environment, the movement of the environment around. So that's definitely awesome. The billowing fabric, you got it right in a lot of ways. The movement here, the gold, the use of gold, the glowing eyes, you got a lot of it. Except there's just, your rendering is really weak. You're using like really, really rough brush strokes to push the rendering of the wheat. Either, I can't critique it because I want to know how far you can push this before I can critique and see how far you've come. But just so that you can have an idea where to go, please thin out her waist a little bit more. She looks like she's the queen of like a Greek peoples or something so similar, either in a fantasy world or in modern day world. I'm sure we can find a goddess that looks just like this. We can't see her feet. She does feel suspended. Your environment is all wrong. The value of the background, this turquoise, you can use other magical values and elements in the background. You can use a normal sky blue if you wanted to. You've used all the colors you're supposed to on her. I don't think you've used them all properly, but they're okay. I suggest a saturation and a change of the background color. Background color is just extremely just washed out. Not green or blue, something in between, like a turquoise that I really wouldn't see in the sky unless it was like a very particular type of weather. A bright old blue sky would do a lot for this scene, just so that we can throw off the palette a little bit and just give that majority of that blue toward the top, just as we would have it in IRL. Okay. And the wheat is a little bit, I'm not sure if I want to cast a shadow, but that would definitely do something. It would bring in another element. So this is my critique for your current completion status, which is not complete, right? And I want you to complete it based off these changes today. Oops, yeah, desaturate. So I'm just saturating that gold. It's doing a lot for her read, and I'm saturating it. How high the wheat is not a good idea. Again, it's the same thing with what we saw earlier. Bringing in too much environment will throw off the feeling like this character is immortal. So something like that might help, where we don't see a horizon line, we just see the element. But at the end of the day, this is very rough rendering work. It's very incomplete. Please complete your submissions. I don't know if I got the wrong one either, because I don't see another one. Beautiful job on finding these references. I love this reference right here. Really, really cool and pretty. I might just steal that real quick. Okay. I've been trying to turn this stupid notification off for the longest time. The design is cool. The execution is lacking because we have high detail in the character design itself, a dark light environment, a dark smoke that is also golden, and a bunch of wheat that is drawn with individual lines that is thrown off the focus completely. Presentation wise, brighten the background a little bit so that we can tell what's going on. Kind of just completely get rid of some of these things here. I don't know what this is. Is this a weed trimmer? Hedge trimmer? Weed whacker? Whatever it is, it doesn't belong in this painting. Is that blood? Okay, so we've made some sense of the space around the character. Now we need to talk about what she is. So she looks like a horror character to me. She looks like someone who will punish you. She's got a cigar? Yo, this is some badass goddess right here. Like we've mentioned earlier today, I don't see any divine touch to her, any divinity, something to represent her as a divine character. This is just a character design in a particular environment, and it's reading as a character from a game or some ghoulish game, something like Gantz, is that right? Gats or something. So where are your divine elements? What are you doing with the representation of what culture? Is it a post-apocalyptic culture? And if so, I'm sure that it was in the description and I'm just not reading it. I'm sorry. If it was a post-apocalyptic culture, I don't see any post-apocalyptic character design here or indication. I'm seeing a lot of fabric, which may read as kind of like a Japanese culture. It looks like a lot like a kimono, which may be something you can go in the direction of, actually. You can make her one of those Japanese ghoulish gods that are like what people worship, or a ghost. It could be the ghost of the harvest season. You can do a lot with this, and that way you can modernize it. When you ghostify her, you can modernize her, and that's why you can bring in these modern elements. But I was very particular about it being historically tied. I was trying to, obviously, in my written brief, asking you guys to move in the direction of classical God worship, religion, Abrahamic and pagan. Like I mentioned, this is not Abrahamic or pagan. This is completely different. Okay, what we've got here, this modern, I hate this modern stance y'all are giving me. Where is the divinity in her gesture? This is someone waiting in the DMV line. This is not someone who is divine. This is not someone whose divine stands. This is not how someone who is divine stands. I think she's throwing a storm or bringing a storm, but the cloud is super small, but the vegetation is massive. I asked for minimal environment. This is a very, very defined environment. If you want to, you can refinish this. I might continue this critique hour into Thursday if I don't get to at least skim over the rest. If they're if there's something I want to change, I feel like I really need to represent it in a before and after. I'll leave it for Thursday. Okay. This is beautiful, but you've completely destroyed it with that background. I don't know why you needed it. You really didn't need all that. What was going on there? You didn't need any of that. You didn't need that little layout thing, DeviantArt presentation thing you were doing. What the fuck is this? She's so fantastic and magnificent, and you've just given me this fucking DeviantArt setup with the double print. What is this? It's a poster? No, it's the designs. I want a clean background. I want something. here, because you having that stupid ass representation of the same image in the background but transparent has thrown off your composition. So how are we going to frame her now to clean this up? Well, we got to completely reposition her. And we got to rethink this mess. What is that? You must be new around here. Nobody must have told you how much I hate unnecessary background business in design. Because it's cheap. It's cheap. Anybody can duplicate and enlarge, and you probably liked it in some drawing you saw at some point. She's got glowing elements, so we need a dark environment. And just look at what's happening. Come on, baby. Look at that. Shut up. Alright, so color. Yeah, I know, it's ugly. I'm trying to figure out what value to use. Because I can just do this. Darkening, saturating, but darkening, almost there. I'll find it. Oh, it's got to be like a night blue or some beautiful environment color, or like a, there we go, like a darker value. Just a little bit of green in there, just to help that orange through, but just not too much. The colors you have on her are also off. And then in verse of that, I would really encourage you change your skin tone, because this leafy tail, it needs something else there to help it. And there was a green in there that you could use. So making her skin completely green will really help you make her feel more like an alien, more like a goddess, more like a creature goddess. She's an elf, and you barely did anything with that. And so when we have moments of blue in the skin, and then we have, let me try to find a better turquoisey color for her skin. And then we have that glowing turquoise as well. And then we have those orange, that contrast with the orange. It just looks really nice. This is not complete, and it's a little bit messy even with my corrections, because there's just a lot of correction we have to do before we meet a sweet spot. But having these areas glow, just as a representation real quick for you, would have been, you need a dark background to have these areas glow and really make that impact and make her feel like a goddess, like a daughter of the, like in Greek mythology. She feels like she's like a nymph or something, but she helps with the harvest, or she brings the fall or the changing of the season. It doesn't always have to be about the harvest. Like I said, it's like a goddess to celebrate the change of the time. So these fairies or her children could be who go around, like in that Fantasia movie, go around changing the leaves dark, All right. I do want to mess around a little bit more with the environment. Ooh, that'd be so cool if she was like all black and the background was just a bit lighter. Maybe the background could be just a touch lighter or more saturated. That would definitely help as well. There's a lot you can do. But where it was before, if you were in my class, I'd have you, literally, I would have you, at the risk of getting my university suit, I would have you walk up to my class, I'd take off my sandal, and I would spank your butt for this. Because you didn't need that crap in the background. You had a beautiful design just by itself, more elegant to represent it this way. It's more clean, it's more beautiful representation, more professional. What was that crap you were doing before? Who told you you need to duplicate and enlarge to have a complete representation of your character? You already did all the work. You already represented it. And if you want a more clean portfolio, you really got to start taking your art seriously, in that you don't need to bring in fancy little tricks and light shows in order to I'm saying light shows while I'm making glow happen, but that's not what I mean. Yeah, Yeah, you don't need to do all that tricky stuff to make the scene work. And then when you're done and ready to start rendering, you can bring this nearby environment value and have that like casting on the leg. Ooh, look at that. Cylinders. How do I bring in more volume and make things look realistic? Well, I should make them react to nearby light sources. Look at that. Look at that. Suddenly her thighs pop right out. Same thing with her chest. Her feet. It's the most beautiful gesture. And you just completely drowned it. A little bit of secondary bounce. Like, ooh, we got a Terminator now. Damn. And the stick is also sticking its leg out. Trying to be sexy. And then we're just going to bring in some of that light as well. Ooh la la. Okay. And then what you want to do with the leaves is up to you. You want to desaturate them. You want to bring in some other magical fiery element nearby. This is your choice. These are your choices in your design. I'm not going to completely alter them. I'm just enhancing the choices you made. But I would not personally have such a cluster of leaves everywhere without at least trying to create some leaf silhouette. So there's all different kinds of leaves. I think this is a leaf. There's all different kinds, and you're not really trying with them at all. Right? So there's different kinds of leaves. You just have the same one repeated over again. I wouldn't do that. You can change the background value to something else as well, something that'll complement. Maybe completely black and just have her glow that way. So we have this goddess here. My biggest problem with this, and I don't think I'll be able to look at all of these because I've got to get going, is that you've got this big shape right there. Big old shape. There's all this wind and emotion. Look at all of this. Just bam, bam, bam. The leaves are going crazy. But her hair, by the power of hairspray, managed to stay in one shape. No. You're an artist. This is your job. This is your job to know what shape to choose for an object. And hair is capable of moving in more than one, as one unit. Hair isn't that, I mean, I wish hair was that tame, but no. You need to break this section up, maybe break it up in a way that'll complement the antlers, or maybe just get rid of it so the antlers are doing all the work. Then we've got this really, really cultural, like, basic basket. It's like a basic bitch, and you're using it beside this antlered goddess of death and harvest and life and like, you know, I see her, and when I look at her I see a rotting corpse of an animal or a deer or some kind of kill or the hunt. At the same time I see her and I think the changing of the seasons, the coming cold, kind of a warning for being equal or respectful to each other, or a warning for being not wasteful with what you've hunted. That maybe her dress could be tattered a little bit to represent poverty, and how you'll get poverty if you don't, you know, respect your food and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. And you know, you're not really doing that. I want you to try doing that. Other design qualities you could bring in is like an even bigger scythe to scare the crap out of kids for not wasting their food or finishing their dinner. You know, how would we bring that in to our modern day world? That would be really cool if we had just like a big old scythe. Oops. And that would kind of complete her piece. And then there's the background. Too dark and then really bright at the top. That's never a good idea. Half the canvas is bright, half the canvas is black. That always looks bad. That always, always, always looks bad. It never looks good. It will never look good. All those people who try to do angel versus demon, dark versus light, it's such a messy way to create an environment. You need like a massive, the brightest point should be here, the darkest point should be here, and everything else should be a mediation movement like towards it. You should have more gray. That way the majority of the environment is within one or a very medium value range. But having super bright cut right in half and having super dark, that's always messy. It never looks good. I'll take a look at these on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, so Thursday the 3rd of October. And I'll be putting up the challenge for October by the end of the day or the end of the week, but you guys already know what it is. It is a sketched hand, like line art, character design lineup with cell shading representing classic Halloween characters that you've redesigned and brought in some kind of unique element to them. It could be an animal, it could be half human, half animal, it could be some kind of really, really cool alien species or something like that, but the style has to be consistent. You have to represent the same style throughout. You can't just have like one slightly anime-ish, one slightly realistic, and no rendering. This is all about pushing your lines so that they're efficient, clean, crisp. You're representing the right kind of detail cluster, and you are representing different scales and character, the character variety, and you are representing volume. You're representing real shapes on which these lines sit. So it's not a square that you're using to design the character's torso, it's a cube. And onward. All right, this is a really, really cool one. Kind of dark, reminds me of Dark Souls. I love it. I'll take a look at it next time and just see what we can do with it. To join the class, go to istebrak.com right here and click on the little Reddit icon to join. Please make sure that you're reading through, not sure where the rules are, but make sure that you are not posting like stylized art that is hardly rendered. I've seen some of you guys do that. Some like repetitive half lizard people. I'm not sure who posted that. Please don't do that. This is a community about pushing your skills to the max, and I don't care how much you've written as a disclaimer in your post that you know it's stylized. Don't post it if it's excessively stylized, if you haven't even bothered rendering an eye socket or something. This is not what this community is about. It's not a niche community. It never will be. It's about pushing your art. And you're not really pushing your art if you're doing it like that. We have challenges where you have a designated time to push your stylization. This is why I'm providing this challenge in Halloween for you guys for this month of October to mess around with your line volume. But as for like rendering scales and then not pushing your like the face or anything like that, or not even trying to render the portrait, that's just laziness, that's stylization, that's dependence on lines, and that's not what we're about. There's a time and place to push your lines, a time and place to be stylized, and you guys you have a challenge right about that nowadays. But before this, it was just not welcome. No excessive. I've never seen that artist, I think, the one I think I'm talking about, ever try a pushed render. I think they've pretty much stagnated in their rendering. Please try, whoever it was that posted that excessively stylized, half-rendered post, try to push your renders a little bit. Maybe this community isn't right for you if you're depending on stylization to represent some level of quality in your portfolio. Quick little announcement for there. And then support me on Patreon if you're interested in rewards, my brushes for free, joining in on the apprenticeship. You guys are doing the same challenge right now for the apprentices, but they got the harvest challenge way earlier than you guys did. They got a lot of other challenges you guys haven't heard about. So if you want to join in on monthly challenges just like the Harvest Goddess, and do some homework or have your form studies critiqued or have your minor studies critiqued, you guys can come in for the apprenticeship on Patreon through Discord. And Portrait Studio will be on sale by the end of this month or by the start of November. If you're interested in Portrait Studio or my brushes at half off, they will be on sale within a month's time. If you're interested in buying it, hold off. Just wait. You'll get it at half off instead of paying full price now. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm so happy to be back. I'm amazed at my the fact that I'm back. I'm amazed, and I hope it stays like this. I hope nothing deters me or distracts me or bothers me so that I don't get sick again and have to just leave on another hiatus. I hate them. Critique Hour is the lifeblood of this community, and I love you guys so much. I hate when I'm not doing Critique Hour, and I hope to continue this for another solid year before I have to take another break. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye everyone.